All right, before it gets too dark, let's talk about some of the techniques we're using here. First off, we're just using hand tools because I forgot my chainsaw, but you can do this with a chainsaw as well. Hand tools I find are easier to carry with you. You can take these out in the woods, it doesn't take a lot of weight. So I've pollarded the tree, but in a way that it will die. And I'm gonna come back and finish girding the tree. And this is ugly, this is not something a landscaper would do. But because that tree is so close to the drain right there, I need this tree to die so that we can rot out as much of that root mass and get it out of there without having to excavate the whole thing. So I cut it off really rough. All right, so in a couple months, as this dries, I'll come back with a chainsaw, cut it off shorter, and then cut into the top or split the tree so that it definitely dies. It'll dry out and die. I also cut down some bushes that were in front of the window so we can get visibility on the window. I'll take this cord off later in the season and then trim that up nice and neat so that it comes back in the spring. Everything that we cut off, by the way, I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead, and this is what you're gonna do if you're gonna make brush fences or you're otherwise cleaning brush on a line like I talked about in a previous podcast today. So we drop the trees, we lay out the branches, and we do what's called limbing. So limbing as in L-I-M-B-I-N-G. So this tree is laying here, we cut all the limbs off. You see all these limbs, we cut them off. And we're now trying to get what's called straights out of the tree. We want the straightest, longest poles we can get, and we want them appropriate length so that they'll fit into the trailer, but also so that they stack nice and neat. We're gonna drag the brush onto the trailer. The very first items are the small pieces. Take the small pieces first because we're gonna throw the long pieces on top to hold down the brush. And then I gotta go by and pick up some cattle panels. So we've got this limbed as well. See, that used to be connected there. And we cut it off. And we got straight pieces. Now the benefit of straight pieces is that when we weave them together as a fence, we can take the long straight pieces that are thick and use them as vertical uprights, and the narrow thin pieces that are flat and use those as the crosses in our shrubbery, our brush fence. Remember, brush fences can be used for animal shelters, wind blocks, to go around protective trees on a farm. And we don't really care what kind of wood it is, because once the leaves are dried out, the deer and goats and pigs or whatever is gonna eat it, or they're not gonna eat it. But this is not a blocking fence. There isn't enough brush here to build a real large brush fence. But again, I have an example. They're graciously allowing me to butcher their tree because we got to get it out of there anyway. And of course, it's gonna stop the leaves from getting in the gutter, give us a little bit more awareness. But again, we drop everything, put all the stems, the biggest parts in one direction, limb the tree out, and then we have nice long straight pieces to weave between the longer stick pieces that are hammered into the ground as stakes. And then, like magically, we have a brush fence starting up. Now, if you're clearing a line in the woods 4 feet wide, 250 feet long, you're gonna have plenty of brush to give yourself a brush fence or to build other types of brush shelter for habitat restoration. It's gonna be native trees, so you don't have to worry about the leaves being dangerous or anything like that. But ultimately, this is how we start hedges and how we start building. If you want practical experience with this, we can do some of these projects actually in the woods. I needed to take care of this one for this nonprofit, for this fraternal organization, and also give you a great example here of limbing. Look at that, look, we cut the limbs down. Now we have sticks with Ys in them. Oh, and you're always cutting at the segments. You're always cutting here. You know, you're cutting at the segments where it's been straight below it. Anyway, visit www.prosperityhomestead.org. I want to get out of here before I'm either shot or it gets too dark to work. Ask your questions. I look forward to hearing from you.